How many views do you need to become a YouTube millionaire? Factoring in all of the different YouTube strategies, revenue sources, costs, and RPM data in each niche. To get started, I've taken an industry consensus on YouTube RPM across many broad popular niches, assuming a 10-minute video duration with ads at the beginning and end of the video, as well as some ads spread throughout the video, which I have estimated at roughly 3, which is what I see most commonly from my consulting clients and my YouTube mates on private Discord servers. This gives me an estimate of the revenue generated per ad block played on each video. I've also distinguished between two geographic compositions, wealthier and poorer demographics, since the country your viewers are from has an extreme impact on your RPM. For example, viewers from South America are on average 80% less valuable than those from the USA, monetarily speaking. But for the sake of keeping the math easier, I'm going to refer to a global average for the rest of the video, which assumes your audience is globalized, but on the basis your videos are in English, which gives you a slight monetary advantage as English-speaking countries will skew the data. Next, YouTubers post videos of varying lengths, and this will impact the RPM that you get on your videos. However, doubling video length does not double your RPM, as it's a non-linear relationship. For example, if you have an 8-minute video on a $1.70 RPM and then post a 16-minute video, you might get a $2.30 RPM, because YouTube takes liberty in the amount of ads it shows regardless of how many you place on the timeline, and just because your video length doubles does not mean your average view duration will double. So there's diminishing returns from an RPM perspective when it comes to increasing video length. Therefore, from a purely YouTube AdSense point of view, it's not really worth the extra effort of increasing your video length 4 to 5 times if it takes you 4 to 5 times longer to make it and costs you 4 to 5 times more money. Although below 8 minutes, the opposite holds true, since you can place exponentially more ads when you cross the 8-minute threshold. So in most cases, it makes sense to post videos that are above 8 minutes. Anyway, now with some easy math, we have a superficial view. If you generated money only through YouTube AdSense, this is how many views per niche you need to get $1 million in revenue. These figures are quite daunting, especially in the more popular areas like gaming, where you might need 500 million views to make $1 million. For context, across all of my channels, I have just over 300 million long-form video views, which took me 5 years to accumulate across 10 channels, and I'm not a millionaire yet. Now this is where things get interesting. Let's incorporate all of the other revenue streams you'll likely expand into as your YouTube channel grows. I have scoured YouTube for all of the YouTubers who are kindly sharing their revenue stream data breakdowns publicly. This varies quite a lot depending on the niche and the YouTuber's chosen business model. For example, art YouTubers sell commissions as a large chunk of their revenue since the AdSense they receive is relatively low versus, say, finance YouTubers like Joshua Mayo and Andre Drick, who most of their revenue comes from sponsors and AdSense since the products they sell are expensive and the audiences are relatively wealthy and willing to buy what is advertised to them. So given that there are dozens of different revenue sources, I've aggregated them into a few distinct buckets, which are as follows. First, we have AdSense, which is self-explanatory. Then we have memberships, which includes things like Patreon, channel memberships, and so on. Then we have sponsors, which includes video sponsor spots, sponsored projects, and affiliate marketing. Then we have merchandise, which includes anything physical or digital the YouTuber sells that they've made by their own brand and it's not a training course or a program. And then we have courses, which are anything from Ali Abdaal's part-time YouTuber Academy to one-off pre-recorded courses to one-to-one consulting programs such as AskArcherWarren.com. And the other bucket, which is anything that doesn't fit into any of the other categories. Then I have taken an average of all of these YouTuber revenue breakdowns to split out the average YouTuber revenue stream composition. Now, a small caveat to this data. It's a bit biased in a couple of ways. Firstly, the YouTubers that reveal revenue breakdowns are more typically business and education adjacent, which leans favorably towards things like courses over merchandising and AdSense. Also, my list of YouTubers is mostly established YouTubers who are several years into their YouTube journey. The newest YouTuber amongst this list is April in Alter, who started in April 2023, and the oldest is Linus Tech Tips, who started in 2008, when I wasn't even old enough to go on a bus by myself. If you were to start a YouTube channel today, your first income stream would most likely be AdSense, and over time the percentage contribution of AdSense will fall as you build out credibility with your audience, so sponsorships and other revenue streams can ramp up. Although that's not always true, as if you pick an educational niche like I have with YouTube Strategy, you can start to build out revenue before you achieve the 4,000 watch hours and 1,000 subs needed to get into the YouTube Partner Program. Because if you can demonstrate your value to a wealthy but small audience, they'll take faith in you without social proof. So I booked my first consulting client with this channel when it had just 64 subscribers, before I'd even mentioned that I was going to offer consulting. Anyway, if we then add those averages to our data, we can see how much we earn from all combined revenue sources per 1,000 views in every niche across YouTube. I'm calling this your portfolio RPM. This is the most important number for this exercise, as you're measuring the value of your audience holistically, not just by AdSense. It shows that despite popular niches you might want to start a channel in, like movies and gaming that have really bad RPMs, the actual portfolio RPM is much better. As I said earlier, mathematically it's not worth making 45-minute plus videos because they're diminishing returns from an RPM perspective. But that's only an AdSense RPM perspective. If you consider portfolio RPM, which includes non-AdSense revenue sources, it's likely that your conversion rates will improve on longer form content for whatever you're selling, be it courses, merchandise, or products on behalf of sponsors. This is because your audience has a lot more time to bond with you and build trust. When you have spent 2 hours watching a long format video and have been entertained by someone, you're much more likely to feel obligated to compensate them for that time. This is why most gaming personalities become Twitch streamers so often. On 10-minute YouTube gameplays, there isn't really much time to leave an impression on your audience, but if you sit with them for multiple hours, you don't even have to sell them anything. They'll just give you money through donations out of pure gratitude. My data scales for this linearly, which means if you switch from 8-minute videos to 16-minute videos, your ability to generate revenue from non-AdSense sources scales at the same rate as your increase in AdSense RPM. Now if we take $1 million and divide it by the portfolio RPM and times it by 1,000, this gives you how many views you need to make $1 million on YouTube. But wait, there's a problem here. That's just top line revenue. What about costs and bottom line profit? What about tax? I'm not going to discuss tax because A, only me and my dad, who's a tax inspector, find tax talk fun, and B, it varies too much per country. So let's talk about costs instead. Traditional industries such as construction, manufacturing, industrial, and automotive have really low profit margins, typically below 10%, due to cost-intensive spending on things like labor, equipment, building materials, etc. The more modern industries like tech and software have relatively high profit margins, as it's cheaper to scale non-physical goods and services. Many of them achieve scale independently and can produce content on virtually zero budget. Of course, this varies from being as cheap as recording gameplay having only bought a microphone, all the way to the extreme of Linus Tech Tips employing 100 people and MrBeast doing full-scale TV production. But even so, typically YouTubers operate somewhere between a 50 and 90% profit margin. So I'm going to take an educated guess on my understanding of expense requirements across different niches, all within that range, and add that to my data. Now we can calculate how much revenue we need in order to make $1 million of profit on every niche on YouTube. But then working backwards, we can figure out how many views we actually need to get to that revenue figure. And there you have it, $1 million in pre-tax profit across every niche and how many views you need to get there. Now, if these numbers feel a little bit too optimistic, that's because, in a sense, they are. These are the views you need once all of your revenue streams are set up and you've scaled your channel's viewership. But if we look at your lifetime views and how your revenue sources shift over your first 3 years on YouTube, you'll go from AdSense into sponsors and other areas. And you'll see that whilst I'm assuming you can 10x your viewership every year, your revenue growth is actually 12.5x between years 1 and 2 and 13.5x between years 2 and 3. So it's worth sticking to even if your year 1 AdSense earnings look too weak. This means by the time you've achieved scale in your niche, you will likely have tens of millions of views already. Less so for smaller niches like investing, where you can achieve scale faster and monetize quicker, and more so in areas like gaming and movies, which take a lot longer to grow and build out alternative revenue streams, as the audiences there are for purely entertainment purposes, not to learn from you or buy things from you. What's important is that you're intentional about your approach from the beginning. Plan multiple roadmaps from day one of your channel's different routes to monetizing your audience. This will help inform you on what type of content you should make and how to present it to your audience. Because no one wants to watch a video that feels like its sole purpose is to sell you something. Also, you shouldn't push all of these revenue streams from day one either. There's no perfect time to launch into a different revenue stream, but try to do so when you're building momentum and have established some credibility with your core audience in a way that connects to your new revenue stream. For example, if you're going to sell posters and artwork, it's going to feel more authentic and less like a cheap cash grab if you're an art and crafts YouTuber, as opposed to someone who's making gaming videos. And even though the typical behavior in your niche leans towards a certain revenue composition, that does not mean that you have to be defined by that on your YouTuber journey. Most tech channels are AdSense, sponsor spot, and affiliate marketing driven, but Linus Tech Tips have aggressively built out their own consumer brand, which now in 2025 is their largest source of revenue. Also, I wouldn't suggest you pick the niche that you need the least number of views for, which would be investing. Your fastest route to being a YouTube millionaire is a combination of market factors like saturation, timing, luck, and your own unfair advantages, which will help you make videos in some niches better than in others. To illustrate that, I work in an investment bank and I still chose to make YouTube strategy videos over ones on investing. If you want me to help you on your YouTube journey, check out the link below. And I hope you found this video interesting. Good luck.